Hey everybody, Mike Naso here from IPR365.com and PodWeather.com with the latest on the tropics. Taking a look out there, we had two systems, a wave here crashing into Central America. Might do something in the Pacific. We tracked it all the way from the Central Atlantic through the islands and it never developed. However, the system behind it is now Invest 91L, as we spoke of yesterday. It continues to look even more impressive. The official information from the National Hurricane Center puts this at 90% probability of becoming a depression or storm the next 2 days. That is almost a certainty that this will be a tropical depression. And right now it looks like a gradual movement in this general direction the next few days, putting a significant tropical cyclone somewhere near or north of the northern Leeward and U.S. Virgin Islands by the time we get closer to the weekend, and from there it is uncertain what exactly will happen. Here's the latest on the track guidance of Invest 91L, and you can see, first of all, let me point out that this system is thousands of miles away from Miami, hundreds and hundreds and close to 1,000 miles away from the Lesser Antilles, San Juan, Santo Domingo, the Bahamas, and Bermuda. Okay, and if you want to be funny about it, Charleston, South Carolina. Just to give you an idea how far away this system is. However, within 5 days, look where these models put it. Here, 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 moving west, turning west, although a few have it turning north. And this is where it gets tense. We're going to be dealing with a system based on these models that's going to be sitting somewhere between, say, 21 and 27 north and 60 and 70 west, right in this little area in here. And it's split whether or not from there it turns to the north, threaten Bermuda and East Coast and maybe New England, or if it bends back west for a destined landfall in areas of Florida and perhaps the Gulf Coast, also impacting the Bahamas, by the way. And so that's where we stand right now. Don't feel confident about anything except up to here. Feel confident that anywhere from the northern islands to north of the islands is where this thing's going to head the next few days. But after that, it's all out the window as of right now. We don't have any consensus. That's what you see. We have consensus, this black line here, all the way up until 70 west. And then we get a shot north and then southwest and then northwest. And that zigzag is just because the models at the end don't know what to do with it. And so the consensus is zigzag. What are we going to do with it? And that's what we're dealing with right now with the system. Here you can see the latest RGB image of it, clearly developing a circulation, looks like right in here, although a little bit of twisting in this area here. And it should continue to fan out, get better organized. It's got a large moisture envelope to work with. No real reason why this won't be a depression or a storm by the time I speak to you tomorrow. And even though it looks interesting, I wanted to point out, here are the Cape Verde Islands. Just off the bottom left hand of your screen is South America. So this is flat dead in the middle of the Central Atlantic. You can see it better on this imagery of the colorized AVN. There you can see the system firing up thunderstorms, giving you an idea that here are the Cape Verde Islands, here's South America, the Lesser Antilles, then you have the Bahamas here, Bermuda sitting right up here, and here comes our system, a large system. This may take it time, to get your preparations because it may take a longer time to develop, but at the same time, nothing's going to stop the movement. You can't stop that type of movement. If it was here yesterday, it's here today, you can guess where it's going to be the next several days as it works its way up towards land masses further west, and we have to deal with it that way. Now, real quick on the environment for intensification. Right now it's under about 10 knots of shear and anticyclone, very favorable. It should have good conditions all the way to the Caribbean islands or just north of there, as mentioned before. There might be a little bit of wind shear it has to deal with by the time it crosses 60, but remember, Francis had a little bit of wind shear when it made that westward turn. Andrew had a ton, almost tore it apart. And Floyd in 99 was getting very lopsided and sheared. What happened? Broke through the shear zone, turned west, and we know what happened with those three storms. and the devastation they caused for the United States. Not saying this one's going to do that, but if there is shear in the forecast towards the end, don't think that that's going to permanently kill the system or prevent future intensification. It just may have to deal with a shear zone. But as of right now, you can see straight on up, not a thing. Blues and greens here, very favorable for development. This red and orange in here, not so favorable, but after that, favorable again. So we'll wait and see. Also, look how favorable the Gulf and Caribbean are. Look at our system moving into Central America. Sure didn't tap into the low wind shear and hot water environment it had, because it could have strengthened as much as it wanted to as long as it was over water. Now, here's the problem with the track. Here's the GFS model, and you can see what it ends up doing with our system. It develops two storms. Our first one here takes a track just north of the islands, then kind of bends west and ends up turning north. A second system comes off Africa, and that appears to be moving straight west in 5-6 days. But you can see our system clearly is getting the ridge here sliding to the east. There's a weakness pulling our system up and out. Now look at the Canadian model. Pretty much the same area, right? Different situation. Storm pulls up, weakness closes, storm gets pushed back west. And that is what we're dealing with right now, with the threat of this system being a strong hurricane moving straight west towards South Florida, the Bahamas, and the Gulf of Mexico. That would be a very, very bad situation right in there if that were the case. But right now it's just too early to tell. You don't know what it's going to do. I will point out, though, that in the last 100 or so years of hurricane history, storms within about 50 or so miles of this area, look at these names: Francis, David, Dean, Alan, Dora, Frederick, Carol, Andrew. When you have storms that were in this area and you have that many historic hurricanes on one map, that is not a good sign. So that goes to show that storms that can turn west under this pattern can be devastating. But they don't even need to turn west. And by the way, that Carol was not the Carol of 54, it was the Carol of 53, but still skirting Long Island as a hurricane, and today even more serious than back then. So it has three options: Caribbean, Dean Allen style, a turn out to sea, Bill Carroll style here, or the Francis, Andrew, Dora turn back west. And right now we just can't say what's going to happen, but I will say if it does end up taking a westward turn under a ridge, it could be a very serious hurricane based on the pattern and what we're seeing out there. So that'll about do it for the tropics. We'll keep an eye on 91L right now. If you're in the Lesser Antilles and any of those land masses I mentioned on this update, begin to overlook your hurricane plans. This is 90% near certainty for development, and it looks like by the time you next hear from me, we may have a depression or even a tropical storm strengthening in the central Atlantic. And from, say, 60 west, 65 west, where it goes, we just don't know if it can slide out to sea or if it's going to head straight towards Florida and the Gulf. We just don't know at this point. East Coast, though, not off the hook yet. I'm Mike Naso from IPR. I'll see you next time.